Hello.
Hello.
Morning.
Walker, I love your wall of windows.
I like my wall of windows too. It's a great place to work. My full sunroom.
Yeah.
I
That's
actually
nice.
have to be in the office actually the rest of this week, so it's nice being outdoors.
Excellent. Yeah, it is nice. It's beautiful. Yakeem, are you calling from Canada?
Yes, in the Great
Nice.
White North up in Montreal.
All right. And so what's going on with the travel ban? Canadians is no one allowed to go to Canada and
Well,
vice versa?
the border is closed between both countries for non-essential travel by car. Flights are still available on a limited fashion. But before the pandemic, I was in Chicago every second week. Almost lost my rights for medical health care here in Canada because I was away from the country for so long.
Don't do that.
I'm sorry?
Don't do that.
No. But yeah, we're building something special in Chicago, and we'll get into it soon, I suppose.
Yeah, that's what Maury was telling me. I apologize for the confusion there. It was really interesting. We were pretty much full, and then one person like minutes later said he can't make it. I was like, perfect. That opens up a spot. So I'm glad it worked out.
It was meant to be. It was meant to be.
Good morning, Joe. How are you?
Morning, Bill. Good. How are you?
Doing well. It's
Joe.
good to see you.
Hey, guys. Hey, Jonathan.
Hi, Joe. Good to see you.
You too.
Thank you.
Maury, you changed your name from Cindy to Maury.
Man, I don't know how that happened. Cindy must have been tired of hearing her name as Mo. So she changed it.
I'm sure Cindy looks a lot better. That's for sure.
You can count on that.
So we got a couple more folks joining us. Cyrus, how are you, my friend?
Good morning. Hi, Bill.
It's good to see
Hi,
you.
Maury. Good morning, everyone.
Morning. Peter, by the way, Braxton will be joining us about 10 minutes late.
We'll all have to throw some shame on him for running late. Matt, welcome. Good to have you here.
Good morning. Thanks.
We got our first Peter has shown up on time. I like
Yes,
that.
Peter's here on time. I'm not 10 minutes late. So disassociate me with the other Peter.
Right. No shame to this Peter. And Jerry, good to have you. Welcome.
Thanks. Good to see you.
Likewise. Jeff Feld, thanks for joining us. Glad you could make it.
Thanks, Bill. Good to see everyone.
Jed Levenstein, it's a night. What do you got? A green wall behind? What is that? A living wall?
It's a biophilia wall, Bill. Part of the experiential workforce that you're going to start seeing more of when people return.
What does a biophilia wall mean? It's like a living wall?
It adds some greenery to the office space, some environmental pleasures there. You know, you get back into the light. You know, we've been spoiled over the last year, getting to sunlight where we want, getting no distractions and privacy. So why not add some of the home life to what you got in the office, right?
I like it. I like it.
It's not
Very
anything you
nice.
can smoke or anything, is it? Or
Not just yet. Not just yet.
I suspect that'll be an option though if you want that, Nikki.
Kim, welcome. So glad you could join us.
Hey,
Good to see you. Are you in your home offices or in your downtown offices?
I'm in my home office today. I was downtown yesterday.
Okay. Yeah, I'm hearing more and more people are kind of starting to go back a little bit. I know Walker mentioned that has to go back the rest of the week. And so it's kind of, certainly for someone like me, that's good to see.
Right. No, I've been going back since June, but just like 1 or 2 days because it's still pretty quiet.
But how many people are in the office? Are you the only person there?
Not the only one, but maybe 5 to 10 instead
Okay.
of 50 some. Yeah.
Oh, okay. Okay. Yeah.
I think 50% of our employees have never stepped foot back in the office since last year.
Bill, speaking of going back in the office, I have to drop like 15 minutes early. I got to head out to catch a flight, which I'm starting to realize that in-person meetings are coming back, which is good and bad, I guess. But
Good and bad.
This is only the second flight I've had this year that I'm actually flying to meet somebody, so in person. So I sense it's coming back a little bit.
Good.
One of the reasons I'll be downtown the rest of the week is I have 2 client lunch meetings, so in person.
Nice. I'm curious, and obviously you don't have to tell me, but how many on this call have received at least one vaccine shot? Wow, that's everybody. How about both shots? Yeah, that's great. That's awesome. Very nice.
Bill,
That's pretty
you'd
impressive.
probably be interested to hear that I just learned yesterday that Accenture is asking everybody to come back to the office April 27th.
Oh, wow.
And
That's
they-
soon. Okay.
they were
Everybody?
Those who want to come back,
Okay.
the office is open. I mean, they've had a lot of people who work from home a lot anyway,
Yeah.
but they are also giving you have to have a COVID test. They're giving a $250 allowance for COVID testing. You get to clock your hours when you're getting your test. I don't have the email in front of me, but it was read to me.
What about travel restrictions? Jeff, are they
I
any travel
don't-
restrictions still?
I don't know,
Okay.
but I will find out more, because it's my son who's a senior manager there. He's a year away from, I think, being a managing director. So he shared the email with me last night. He goes, I was talking to him on FaceTime, and he looked at his computer and he goes, "Oh crap, this is interesting."
Well,
he doesn't mind, but he says, I'll drive downtown, but I'm not taking public transportation. He's had both vaccines.
Yeah.
But
Well, I'll tell you what's going to happen. If you look at some of the major tech companies like Amazon, Apple, Facebook, Google, Microsoft, they're out of one side of their mouth, they're telling their employees, don't worry, you never have to come back. Out of the other side of their mouth, or shall we say their checkbook, they are signing the largest leases in every major market across the country, hundreds and hundreds of thousands of square feet per lease. So they're taking advantage of the timing, but you're not going to sign millions of square feet of leases across the country if you're not planning on bringing your people back.
And Bill, the meeting I'm flying out to is actually in Mountain View at Google's campus later today. So that's just, I was told not to set foot on site there for how long, and now people are calling me for meetings there. So it's kind of, you see the switch already.
Well, an interesting thing about a company like Google is a perfect example. They are known for, and one of their cultures around all these amazing perks that they have on site, right? They've got childcare, they've got dry cleaning, they've got so many different things on site. Well, if you're at home, you don't have access to those perks and things like that. And so I think that's a big reason why people want to come back, is to be able to enjoy those things. But anyway, I don't want us to get too sidetracked. It's great to see such a wonderful crowd. We'll go ahead and get started. I wanted to welcome everybody. For the guests, you have found yourselves at the TAG Executives Luncheon. Although while we're virtual, lunch is on your own. So whether you got lunch or not, maybe you ate before, you're gonna eat after. But so it's just the TAG Executives Gathering. The purpose is twofold. It's really to connect with some amazing people, leaders of their industry, people that are running their own businesses, or at the top of their profession as it relates to their service. And then it's to discuss a topic that is relevant to all of us as business owners and top service providers. As we mentioned, today's topic is name a challenge that your business or industry is facing and your thoughts on how to overcome it. And so we're going to do 2 parts to this meeting. The first part is I'd like everyone to take no more than 60 seconds just to introduce yourself, tell us who you are, what you do, and who your ideal clients are. Try and keep that under 60 seconds since we've got a larger crowd than normal. And then the second time around, we'll address the topic of conversation, of which I will take some notes on. And after the meeting, I'll share that with everybody and send those around. Really quickly, I did want to thank Adam Radulovich. He's our Zoom host, and he is recording this. So no swear words. Let's keep everything politically correct. This could be shared on social media in the future. So let's stay nice and PC for this call. But so I'm just going to go around in the order that I see people on the screen. So we'll start with Mr. Walker Lawrence.
Good morning. Thank you, Bill. Good to see a lot of faces and also see some new faces. I am Walker Lawrence. I have a partner at the law firm Levin Ginsburg. My focus is primarily on the employment and labor space, helping both executives as well as management attorneys. But think of me less as a lawyer, but more as a problem solver. So the way that I function is really provide value and solve problems that my clients are having in their businesses day to day. If it's a legal problem, generally it's a solution we can provide internally at our firm with the team of lawyers that I work with. We're a really collegial firm and work really close together and manage our relationships. But if it's outside the legal space, it's people like yourselves. So I really value getting to know business owners that can solve problems that my relationships are having so that I can provide an opportunity and introduce them to the people that can do it quickly, efficiently, and cost effectively. Pleasure to meet you guys.
Thanks for being here, Walker. And then Joachim, you're next.
You're muted.
Good afternoon. It's afternoon here in Montreal. It's 12:39. I'm building a startup with my co-founders who are based in Chicago and Champaign. Company's called Shop Hitley. Basically, we're an e-commerce platform for everything related to cannabis, but the plant or the leaf itself. I like to say everything from rolling papers to real estate, and only for folks over the age of 21. So we're in the midst of building the platform. We have a tremendous team. One of our co-founders owned and operated the number 22 website in the world. Has been online since the mid 80s. So we're very excited about the opportunity that lies ahead. And with the imminent legalization at the federal level, it's a tremendous business opportunity. We're essentially selling the picks and shovels for the gold rush. And it's very, very exciting. Very happy to be here. Thank you for the invite.
Nice. I'm glad you could join us. Jonathan Rothstein.
Good morning, everybody. Jonathan Rothstein. I'm a senior commercial banker, trusted advisor, and stakeholder in Fifth Third Bank. When I say stakeholder, what I mean is I have a vested interest in the client experience. We're a bank that doesn't believe in 1-800 numbers. We're a bank that believes in a highly personalized approach to banking. We believe in taking an entrepreneurial approach to banking. We believe in building long-term and mutually rewarding relationships. I am a trusted banking advisor to professional service firms and the practitioners that own and operate these types of firms. So strong emphasis in the legal arena, expands into healthcare and architectural and engineering firms, staffing firms, technology types of firms. Just celebrated my 18th year with the bank. Have over 25 years experience in the banking business. Also have 4 years experience helping run and ultimately sell a closely held family business. So when I say I take an entrepreneurial approach to banking, I truly do so. I'm very passionate about banking, passionate about making my clients' lives easier when it comes to banking so they can do things they do best, which is things like practice law and practice medicine. So Jonathan Rothstein, Fifth Third Bank, great to see everybody today. Thanks.
Thanks for being here, Jonathan. Maury Elstein, I affectionately have nicknamed him the Godfather of Networking.
Good morning, everybody. So Maury Elstein 2 years ago, after being in commerce for almost 40 years and selling a company to Bank Press 20 years ago with 480 employees, 380,000 square feet, decided that I was going to continue to work and decided that it was time to use a network that I had developed over 40 years. In those 40 years, I've interviewed almost 10,000 presidents and owners of companies and had a chance to find that connecting them and keeping them was solely dependent on my willingness to introduce my human assets to my human assets. Maury Connect simply takes presidents and owners of companies and introduces them to other presidents and owners of company to grow business. So it's Maury Connect, Maury Elstein, glad to be here.
Glad to have you, Maury. Joe Coletta, welcome.
Well, thank you. Yeah, Joe Coletta. I have a firm, 180 Engineering. We do recruiting and staffing for engineers, technical talent, IT people. 180 refers to kind of doing it differently. My background is engineering, was an engineering leader for 30 years and decided to start a firm that does that. So we understand what we're recruiting for, and that's our business. And we're in Lisle, Illinois, but serve nationally.
Do you have a focus on engineers and programmers and folks like that? Or is that just one subset that you can help with?
Right. We're pretty broad in terms of engineering and IT.
Okay, terrific. Cyrus Ravitna of Ravitna Architects. Welcome, my friend. Yeah, there you go.
Hi there. Hi, Bill. How's everybody today? We are architects. Our work is both residential and commercial. The residential is, we're just finishing up a big high-end lake house on Green Lake, Wisconsin. We do tons of multifamily work, up to like 50, 60 units, 2 flats, 3 flats, and then we do all sorts of little tiny jobs, kitchen remodeling and bathroom remodelings. Our commercial work is hotels, offices, restaurants, historic restorations, and churches. And we just this morning got news that we got a big permit we've been working on for drawings for over a year. And it's the historic restoration of a big church in Woodlawn. So we're about to start construction on that one. Yeah, the church was gutted by fire about 4 or 5 years ago. And all that's left are the 4 exterior walls. And they want this church to look as close to St. Peter's as it can. So lots of decorative moldings and reliefs and all sorts of fun stuff like that.
Very interesting. Well, congrats. It's always nice to hear about wins. So good work on that.
Thanks.
Matt James, you're next in the lineup.
Morning, everybody. Great to see everybody and meet you all. I'm the Chief Operating Officer at Hickory Farms. So food gifting retailer. We're multi-channel retail. So e-com, brick and mortar, as well as on shelf and other retailers like Walmart, Target, folks like that. And we have a corporate gifting business. So for all your client or employee gifts, we've got you covered on the food front. My role here is kind of all the behind the scenes that makes it happen and gets the product to the customer. So everything from strategy and analytics of where we want to compete, the product development, assortment planning, and supply chain and technology functions to deliver it. So we are a 70-year-old company, originally from Ohio, but new ownership and relocated here to Chicago in 2016. So excited to meet everybody.
Terrific. Well, thanks for being here, Matt. I appreciate it. Peter Wokewitz, the Peter that's on time.
Yep, I'm the Peter that's on time. So thanks, Bill, and thanks for having this event. Just briefly, so I'm a technology guy, and I primarily venture capital investment. I also do interim CIO, CEO work, and M&A work for anything technology related. So I try to invest in Chicago where possible. That's where my primary residence is, but also spend a lot of time in California and do some things out there, and also in New York City. And recently, you know, through the last year, been getting some other areas outside of strict technology. So invest in a robotics company, space, a small sat company, and just closed a deal a couple weeks ago on a decentralized finance company. So that should scare Jonathan, maybe, with the decentralized finance stuff. And but that's something I'm just really excited about right now, and something that's it's really going to disrupt banking a lot quicker than people think. So that's what I do. I'm Chicago based, anything technology and anything investment. I'm always looking for investments and always looking for executives. And when we get to our pain points, I'll talk a little bit more about that, but happy to be here and see you all.
Good to see you too, Peter. Thanks for joining us. Jerry, you're next in the squares.
Sounds good. Good morning, everybody, except for Yakim, who I guess I should say good afternoon to. And thanks, Bill, for inviting me to join. Jerry Weitzel with Kozaki, Weitzel McGrath in Chicago. We're a business firm, and I'd say we do about 70% of what we do is litigation, 30% is business advising. So I love trying cases. But I also take really seriously the counselor part of being an attorney and counselor at law. and really enjoy counseling my clients on issues to stop them from being involved in litigation. So Jerry Weitzel with Kozaki, Weitzel McGrath.
Thanks for taking the time to be here, Jerry. It's good to see you.
Yeah, you too.
Jeff Feld.
Thanks, Bill. Name of my firm is Alliance Pension Consultants. I guess I would describe what we do as fix broken retirement plans for organizations around the country. We've assembled technology and people in a manner that allows us to work directly for our clients instead of selling financial services products like the insurance companies and mutual funds. So we get hired by lots of law firms, accounting firms, professional service organizations, probably make up 35% of our client base. I've been with the company since day one. We now manage close to $4 billion in assets, but I want to reiterate, we do not touch the assets. We only set up the retirement plans, provide all the compliance services, design guidance, and documentation. The assets are primarily custodied at Schwab, and the clients are allowed to then use any no-load mutual fund that they want. So what we're trying to do is remove the fat from the retirement plan process in the form of funds with big loads and commissions paid to advisors who aren't adding value, and provide stellar client service because none of our clients really want to be administering their retirement plan. So Jeff Feld, Alliance Pension Consultants. We have offices in Deerfield and in Chicago, and I am fortunately in our home outside of Houston right now, where it's 80 degrees and sunny.
Jeff, can I just ask one quick question? Do you do any non-qual stuff?
We do, typically on top of qualified plans, but we're doing more and more governmental 457F and B, and I don't know why, but yes, we do a little, we do quite a bit of that.
I'll talk about that later. That's a hot space right now. Businesses are trying to leverage those opportunities.
Great. John, is it Levy?
Lovey.
John Lovey, welcome.
Thank you. Well, I appreciate the invitation. I'm an attorney here in Chicago. I worked at a big firm downtown for about 1.5 years before starting my own firm, focused on civil rights and police misconduct. It has grown substantially since then. We're almost at 50 lawyers now, and we do a lot of civil rights work, all different kinds of cases, First Amendment, police misconduct, as I said, whistleblower stuff, wrongful convictions, voting rights, all kinds of civil rights stuff. I've also a partner, my law partner and I started a technology company with an AI data scientist, and we've been doing that about 5 years, and interesting things happening on that front too, as well as a medical cannabis company. We also started a medical cannabis company, and I'm also involved in that.
Excellent. Thanks for being here. Jed Levenstein.
Yeah, thanks, Bill. Good to see everybody. Jed Levenstein, I'm the vice president at Workwell Ventures. Just think about Workwell as the holding company, which we are, and then we have a suite of portfolio companies that all deal with clients in transition. So what I mean by that is we have a company called Right Size Facility that is a new furniture dealer, as well as has a division that does asset disposition as well as decommissioning for companies moving or contracting. We have a second company, Office Furniture Center, which sells really value-priced pre-owned furniture. Third company, Chicago Commercial Storage, we're able to store FF&E. And a fourth company, Mac Relocations, we're able to help with moving and relocation services for commercial. We are nationwide. And as you can see, obviously, a lot of ebbs and flows with the past year of people returning to the office. But with our integrated model in place, the big factor that we play is a single source solution for any move of any type for a commercial client. If I may say one thing, Bill, Maury, I got to give a lot of props to Maury. 20 years ago, thank God I wasn't so hard-headed when I met with Maury, and I learned the art of networking and connecting. And every tip that he trained me that day, I utilize to this time today. And honestly, it's always a pleasure, as Maury knows, as I tell him all the time, to see him, and I thank him all the time for that meeting that took place 20 years ago.
Thank you, Jed.
Love it. Kim Stapleton, welcome.
Yes, good morning. Thanks. I'm with the law firm Ice Miller. We have offices in Illinois. I'm downtown. We also have Lyle, and then we have 5 offices east of here with our headquarters in Indianapolis. Full service firm, almost 700 attorneys. I'll touch on the parts that the other lawyers hadn't mentioned then. Data security and privacy is a big topic. The amount of data we continue to collect is going to grow exponentially. We have former chief information security officers that really help to put a plan in place, help after an incident or breach. We've also have some strong focus in real estate, creditors' rights right now. I'm trying to tie up terms and conditions and put you in the best position if you're sending product, so that you don't end up getting a letter that a client went bankrupt and you're only going to get cents on the dollar. We also have a white collar crime practice, which is always the sexy and fun, exciting part, dealing with the Department of Justice and digging into some crazy situations, and construction attorneys, as well as trust and estate attorneys. So I work across all of those areas. I've been networking in the Chicago land area for 21 years. Came to Bill's events a long time ago in person, and met Maura years ago. And on the Hickory Farms, I heard Diane Pierce speak at a big conference 600 people were at 2 years ago. It was a lovely conference. It's too bad they went virtual last year and this year. Thanks.
Thanks for being here, Kim. Adam Radulovich.
Thank you, Bill. So Adam Radulovich, I'm the CEO and founder of Excel.net. We're an outsourced IT department, and we reduce 80% of the issues and risks that a company feels through use of technology. And then we're able to align the needs of the business departments and connect it with technology solutions to help them get there faster, more efficiently. Ideal client, local company, 15 to 150 computer using staff members that is dedicated to improving their company or growing it.
Love it. Thanks for being here, Adam.
Thanks for having me.
Robin, wonderful to see you. Thanks for joining us. You're on mute right now. We still can't hear you. Huh. You know what? Why don't we'll circle back. Let's go to Peter Braxton. We'll come back to you, Robin, and give you a chance to figure that out.
We still can't hear you, Robin, but you can chime in anytime and interrupt me if you get some volume there. Pete Braxton, apologies about being late. I had an annual Class 1 aviation physical that just ran long for some reason, but I'm here now. My background is U.S. Air Force pilot. I was the first pilot over New York City on 9/11, 2001, which I guess this year would mark 20 years ago. So you kind of know how old I am. That was my first day of work, by the way. 8 deployments to the Middle East, business school, Credit Suisse, started my own companies doing dynamic pricing. So that's revenue management, yield management, algorithms and software. I sold that. Worked in a single family office, a multi-family office, and during the pandemic transitioned to a private equity firm, a very non-traditional private equity firm. We have no LPs. All of our capital partners are in fact general partners. They get carry and GP economics for their participation. We have about 20 of them across the country. And I was kind of recruited and hired to help scale the business. Lower middle market, there's 4 things we don't do. We don't do venture, deep distress or dislocation, hospitality and entertainment space, and we don't do any real estate either. But otherwise, we'll look at any deal, 7 times EBITDA or more attractive across the country and across the world. We've done international deals as well. Again, Peter Braxton, Blue Marlin Partners. Thanks.
Thanks for being here, Peter. Glad you got a clean bill of health. So that's good news. Robin, is your audio back?
I think so. Is it working?
Hey, all right. I was
Apparently I had to say it loud
for you, but I'm glad you can do it yourself.
Almost needed tech help there. Good to see you, Bill. Hi, everyone. I'm Robin Zavanek. I'm with Paragraphs Design, and we are a branding firm for mostly B2B clients. The niches we serve, again, we built our business in Chicago. We were located there for 35 years. Now we're kind of in Denver, where I am, Columbus, Ohio, and still Chicago. That's where all of our people are. Everybody's still working remotely from home, but fortunately, technology has allowed us to still do what we do. just miss the in-person contact. But anyway, most of our clients, a lot of them are healthcare oriented. We built the brand for Baxter Healthcare. It's still a client of ours after 30 years. Some of the other sectors we work within are professional services, manufacturing, technology, and healthcare, pharma, just about anything related to healthcare. So that's pretty much it. We've been doing what we love for over 30 years, and now we're just doing it in different cities. So
terrific. Well, I appreciate you taking the time to be here. I will round out the end. Bill Himmelstein, I founded a commercial real estate brokerage firm almost 13 years ago called Tenant Advisory Group. We focus on representing the end user of real estate. So the tenant, the buyer, and the seller. I have been in this industry for 20 years. I love supporting folks. And the beautiful thing about our approach is, a lease only comes due once every 5, 7, maybe 10 years. But because of learning from people like Maury, I've been able to understand how I can bring value to clients and potential clients, even when there's not a transaction. And that's through listening to who their ideal clients are or what struggles they might be having in their business, and then trying to connect them to potential clients or people that can support the solving of problems in their business. So that's what I do at Tenant Advisory Group. Our typical clients are anywhere from 20 to 1,000 employees, with our sweet spot around 75 to 100 employees. Before we take a minute to go around, I wanted to just pause for maybe a quick picture. If we could all take a second to smile, look at the camera, and then Adam, I'll turn it over to you. You can go 3, 2, 1. All right. Very good. Thank you. Everyone looks terrific. So happy everyone could be here today. And so now for the next segment, which is name a challenge that your business or industry is facing, and maybe your thoughts on how to overcome that. And I think the seats have kind of switched order a little bit, but I'm still just going to go. Actually, maybe we can start with some of the folks that have to duck out a little bit early. I know Jed and Peter are two folks that have to leave a little bit earlier. So maybe Jed, you want to kick us off?
Actually, Bill, I'm okay. I can stay the full hour and a half today.
All right, then forget you. We'll go to Peter.
Understood.
Yeah, I have to leave like 15 minutes early, probably 20 minutes early to be safe. But yeah, so my biggest challenge right now is probably something a little bit different than most people would say with everything going on right now. What hasn't come back yet is kind of the social interactions, the conferences, which is really big in the technology world, as a lot of us on this call know, and that hasn't come back yet. And I would honestly, in years past, I would fly out to a conference just for like a day, just to find technology executives to hire, somebody presenting or somebody I'd run into. And so the biggest problem I have right now is finding good senior people to hire. I have recruiters that work for me, and it's so tough right now. The demand is so high. People are willing to move more so than they have in the past, which is, sorry, got a little interruption there. People are willing to move more than they have in the past. I've moved a lot of people from San Francisco to Austin, for example, a ton of people. But finding good people like in Chicago, it's nearly impossible. And the help I'm looking for there is, where do you network? Where do you go to find those people? And these aren't people that are looking for jobs. They're people that already have executive positions that you want to hire away. And they're good people. For example, I mentioned I made an investment in decentralized finance. There's probably only, I think, maybe 50 executives in the country that have experience in that realm. And I can't find a way to get in contact with them directly and find out who they are. LinkedIn doesn't work. They're not going to respond to LinkedIn. So typically I'd go to a decentralized finance conference. I'd talk to people and hire people, but I can't do that right now. So that's my biggest pain point. And in technology, for those of us in technology, we even know that even at the mid-level, even the developer level, people are still hard to find. It's people are hard to hire. I mean, there's not a lot of people out there looking right now, which amazes me. I thought they would be, but there's nobody. There's a huge talent shortage in the whole technology space. And, the executive space is even a greater shortage. So that's a challenge I have. Anybody has ideas, I'd love to hear them about better ways of finding people and hiring people away. I think, people don't have to move as much as they used to, I think, which is maybe a good thing. You know, typically if you hired an executive, they had to move to wherever the corporate office was. That can be delayed a little bit. You can say, hey, you got to look to move like a year from now. And I'm sure Bill's seeing some of that too, where it's a little bit that way, but the impending, hey, you're going to have to move eventually is there, but it's not right now. So you can actually offer that up a little bit, which sometimes helps. It's not urgent. You can, plan out over the next year. So that's my big gripe right now. My big pain point. That's just, it takes up way too much of my time.
Joe, Coletta, any quick tips?
Yeah, I mean, the first thing is I would just confirm everything Peter said about the market. It's come back gangbusters. I would say we're seeing people interested. We're just seeing them go so fast.
Yeah.
You really hiring managers need to be ready to, if they find somebody who's an 8.5 out of 10, don't wait for the 9.5. I would just say seize the day. In terms of tips, you think you said LinkedIn wasn't working, and there's a lot of LinkedIn groups you can join too, that if they're specialized groups, and then you can see the sub network. All of our recruiters have specialized licenses that cost a fortune for LinkedIn Recruiter, but you get to see everybody in terms of the detail, and maybe buy a license like that. And then your last thing is find a great executive recruiter with a specialization in that industry if you can. I don't know anybody specifically, but I know agencies that do focus on finance people and different kinds of things like that. So it's challenging.
Joe, do you see it getting better? You think it's just going to remain this challenging for the next couple of years?
I think it's going to remain challenging. I think the adapting side is going to be on the manager, the hiring people side, as opposed to right now we're trying to train our clients to move faster, because we typically see 60 days. Historically, we've been in business for 10 years. 60 days from the time we get a job to the time we fill it, it takes about that long. Our first quarter was 34 days. If we couldn't fill the job fast, they were gone. They had another offer somewhere else. And so I think that's the biggest learning we've had.
What about hiring people from overseas and moving them to the US? Is that still such a hard barrier? I know with the kind of the party change in Washington, is that getting easier? Have you heard anything on that front?
I think it's getting easier. I think, again, it's just an obstacle. And, if you've done it before, I've never found it to be all that big of a deal, right? It's not as expensive as people think. It's gone fairly well. So I think it's a mindset shift more than anything.
I think you guys might want to connect after. I think there could be a lot of value added.
Yeah, definitely.
That's a great point.
Can I jump in really quickly, Bill? So, Peter, I have a lot of executives at Fortune 100 companies that I represent, and they're the target that you want to find. They're the ones that don't know that they want to work for you.
Yeah.
Let's connect, and there's probably some synergies. I have a lot of technology COOs at large companies that they may not want to jump, but I can tell you they have teammates that want to jump.
Yeah.
And as you probably know from the executive world, when you know one executive, they mention your name to 12 of their other friends, and suddenly you've got 6 calls. Yep. Let's get offline. I'll see if there's some synergies where I can find some of my clients that might have some people that you want to talk to. That's going to be your best value, to find the executives. I know a lot of my clients that jump from private to, or from public to private equity. That's how that works. And I'll also maybe connect. I've got 2 CEOs here in Chicago that just recently moved into CEO roles with private equity. That they might have some insight about how they found their opportunities and some places to look.
Okay, perfect. Yeah, that'd be helpful. Thank you.
Hey, one more thing, and Peter, I understand your challenges around the sourcing of the talent more so than the actual pitch to get them to buy in. But I'm going to throw in there is on the secondhand side, a close buddy of mine runs a renowned technology platform for employment relocation, and that makes the whole process to relocate a lot easier with a lot of the added benefits and perks. If that's something that can help.
Okay, yeah, I've used some of those services before to move people. But yeah, I'm curious to see what the offering is there.
Absolutely. So again, we could connect and I could give you more information. That's more on the back end outside. The source.
Yeah. But that's a bigger issue, and it's moving is a little bit more challenging now, especially with housing prices being way up.
Sure.
It's not as easy as it used to be.
Yep.
And there's so many clients that are willing to say you can work remotely right now. You're competing with that. people aren't having to move more and more.
Yeah, it's true. But a lot of times people want to move. I find that more and more. Like, I mentioned San Francisco to Austin, and I tell you, to get somebody to move to San Francisco from San Francisco to Austin right now is, they'll ask, as soon as they see the business headquartered in Austin, they'll be like, "Oh, can I move there?" And it's like, "Oh yeah, sure." It's like, it's no longer like trying to get them to move.
That's true.
Yeah.
Excellent.
Living is different.
Yeah. Let's tackle another issue. Kim Stapleton, do you have anything within your industry that, or your business that your challenges that you're facing?
I do think that people are back to meeting in person, but have really loved the perks of working from home. So going forward, there's going to be that mixed bag during the week of a split remote and in person. And I just wonder about the next generation. None of us grew up that way, where half your executives were remote during the week, particularly young associates in a law firm. I mean, they're usually walking by a partner's office who's saying, "Hey, come in, I'm going to have you work on this, start taking notes." How are they learning and being mentored remotely when they're sitting in their studios, 1-bedroom condos by themselves? And they're okay with that generation, which I don't think any of us on the call are that generation, but it's going to be really interesting. I sat on a call with the managing partners of all the significant large law firms in Chicago, much larger than ours. And they're like, people are not coming back. They're not coming back the same way. And it's just going to be a unique dynamic that the world's going to be dealing with for the first time. Revenue's up. Our firm had a great 2020. So that doesn't mean, we know we can do the work, but what about that generation? We won't see those results for 5 years of the detriment that we may have caused by not training them. So that's not even a selfish thing. That's just thinking about
the industry as a whole. Yeah. I mean, that knowledge transfer, I think, is a big component where it's a huge difference when you can walk down to a partner's office and ask a quick question versus having to connect with them and schedule a call or schedule a Zoom or something like that. It really does make a difference. And then again, those just chance encounters where you happen to be in the break room at the same time and you run something by somebody. I think that's some valuable collaboration and knowledge transfer and leadership growth and things like that we're going to miss out on. But like you said, it may not be apparent right away, but then when it's okay, let's look at who we're going to promote. You look around and say, well, who's been here and who's ready for this leadership opportunity? It's going to be interesting.
And Kim, you bring up a good point. And Bill, I'm curious in your opinion on this too. I mean, I hear it from everybody that, hey, we're not going to go back 5 days a week in the office. We're going to go back 3 days a week in the office, 2 days a week in the office, 4 days a week in the office. And, some of the challenges around that and what we do with that. And, I'm curious if Bill's seeing the same thing on the leasing side also. And I think the good thing that came out of this, I think, in all this remote, all this Zoom stuff is we're often too easy to jump to say, hey, it's better to be in person. But the reality is now I think long-term, we're going to have more of a blended where we can do Zooms, we can do things like that. We can travel less. I've been advisor for a large .com out in San Jose for 8 years now. And there'd be times where I get an hour meeting on somebody's calendar, out in San Jose, and they would literally hop on a flight from New York to attend that 1 hour meeting. I'm like, what the heck are you doing? It's not worth it. Those days are gone. Now those are Zooms, which I like. And hey, so I think there's the positive side out of this, but, Bill, are you kind of seeing, is that what you're hearing from all your kind of, the people you deal with? Is it really 3 days a week, 2 days a week? Are you seeing all or nothing?
No, of course. I think there's absolutely going to be some sort of a blend. And I think that, it's going to be 1, 2, maybe 3 days a week at home at most. But the interesting thing, people think about that and say immediately that means they need less space. However, the flip side of the coin is that, 20 years ago when I started in this industry, the average square feet per employee across all industries in downtown Chicago was 470 square feet per employee. Fast forward to right before the pandemic, and that number had dropped to 190 square feet per employee. So we're going to see a great increase in square footage per employee, more offices, more breakout rooms. Instead of jamming people into bench seating or a cubicle farm, we're going to have more space. And so even though you might only have 70 to 80% of your people coming in on any given day, you might still use the full square footage that you have by spreading out. But Peter, to your point, there will be a hybrid of more people working from home and attending meetings via Zoom. But I also think that our new normal is going to far more closely resemble the old normal than people think. That's my opinion. Let's move on to another topic. Peter Braxton, you've got a very interesting industry. You've always had a very interesting perspective, and I'd like to hear what your thoughts are to kind of what some challenges are either at your business or in your industry.
Sure. I can probably talk about all three: the business, industry, and maybe even personal. The industry itself is always going to have challenges trying to find cheap asset prices. Private equity is not a complex financial instrument. You know, you buy low, add value, sell high. It gives you room for error. If you buy high, where some of these businesses are trading, you try to add value and sell higher. You know, everything really has to go according to plan. So always finding good deal flow, proprietary off-market deal flow is tough. That said, I think our firm, through Marlin, has really kind of cracked the code there by recruiting actual operators, entrepreneurs, and business owners to be their GPs. You're going to start to see, if you haven't already, a lot of entrepreneurs really exit at high multiples, have domain expertise, and they're not really ready to retire. Maybe they're ready to semi-retire, but they have decades and decades of relationships and expertise that they could bring to bear when analyzing and diligencing company and then ultimately leading it. With respect to challenges in the industry, you know, there's a saying in the business that I was in, you know, if you've seen a family office, you've seen one. There really is no institutionalization or formalization of this kind of family office model. Every single family really does things differently, whether they concentrate on real estate or they concentrate on equities or they concentrate in venture. It's a challenge really trying to identify which families are, you know, trying to go deeper into a specific domain versus maybe be a little bit more passive, a passive investor. And then finally, on the personal note, not really a challenge, but just kind of a note, Robin, I noticed you're in Denver. I'm moving to Colorado this summer, this fall. My network in Chicago is pretty robust, as Maury has been helpful and can attest to, and so can you, Bill. I really don't know a ton of people out of the kind of Colorado Mountain West region, especially kind of families, but my brother is the only neurosurgeon in Eagle and Summit County, Colorado. And ultimately, you know, the pandemic really brings into sharp focus how important it is to be close to family when you can't see them, right? Like kind of almost legally or physically see them. And Zoom, everyone's point, really doesn't do it justice on Christmas Day or New Year's to kind of dial in. So for lifestyle reasons, I'm taking my family out to Eagle, probably Eagle, Colorado. Like I said, I am a pilot, so I can fly around from, you know, into Centennial or into Rocky Mountain or Omaha or anywhere else. But I really love some help building up my network out in the Mountain West region.
Sounds good. Welcome.
Well, Robin, while we're on you, why don't you share with us maybe a challenge in your industry or your business?
Oh boy, just like everybody else, it's probably pretty similar. I think where we may differ just a little bit is that if we're all working from home and we're working on our specific programs, whether it's strategy or writing or whatever, it's great. But missing that camaraderie and that collaboration to just walk in and say, let's go brainstorm, because creativity in a lot of ways is very intuitive when you get into that process, and doing it via computer is really difficult. We're making it work like everybody else, but it's just not the same. And I think everybody's anxious to get together. So we're trying to find ways to continue to keep morale up, whether it's birthdays, trying to celebrate remotely and being together, and the promise of making up for all of this when it's over is key. But one of the things I think that's difficult for us is for some situations, for instance, we were working with a financial tech firm out of New York. And it's the last business trip we took because it was February of last year where we locked up 20 executives in a conference room, didn't have their phones, and did a brand workshop. And it was amazing and it was fun. Well, now I'm trying to do the same thing on a Zoom call. And you can see half of them have their head down looking at their phone. And I'm like, oh my God, how do you manage these busy executives when you can't do it in person anymore? Because we could keep them so active in the process that it was kind of cool for them to put their phones down and participate. And now everybody's participating via computer. And how do you engage 20 people now when you're doing these projects and trying to follow up and doing it on a computer? You know, it's like giving a little kid a laptop or an iPad, and there they are glued to something else. So it's a challenge.
Yeah.
So more of a statement than anything else, but that's kind of what we're dealing with, is trying to keep people engaged for a good amount of time to get what we need to do the right thing for them. So interesting.
And I think that's probably going to be a situation over lots of industries as well.
Mm-hmm.
So why don't we go to Joachim? I'd love to hear some of the issues that are challenges that you're facing.
I think there's a common one that most of the folks have already touched on, a little bit like Peter as well. He mentioned he goes to trade shows.
Mm-hmm.
We're building an e-commerce marketplace for cannabis related goods. Like I said, not touching the leaf or the plant. And we also missed the trade shows for a couple of reasons. One, we find potential vendors for their products in our marketplace, which we now have to do virtually or at a distance. But as well, I mentioned a little bit earlier that one of our co-founders owned and operated the number 22 website in the world. And one of the things that we don't worry about is getting people to come to our marketplace, because that's his expertise.
Mm-hmm.
And one of the ways that he generates that kind of word of mouth and excitement was in the offline world, right? At events, at trade shows, or even, we always used to count on, there being the NCAA tournament and the top four. So there are going to be 4 cities that are going to be very active and very excited. Even Memorial Day, 4th of July, opening day in baseball. So these are all real events that took place where we could count on there being a group of people, a large group of people, and we can get them excited about what we're doing. There are innovative ways and creative ways of doing that.
Mm-hmm.
But we see that as being temporary, of course. I mean, we're in the tail end of things being locked down. As we heard already, there are offices that are opening up. I think it was Accenture that's asking for their staff to come on site next week. So it's temporary and it's slowed us down a little bit. Another challenge, I would say that the external challenge is, which is shifting as well and is not going to last for too much longer, is legislation. And we all know there are many states that are adding the legalization of recreational cannabis use. I know, Bill, you said we want to keep this PC because it might be shared on social media. And one of the things I've learned over the years is not to talk about politics. But in the last election, in the November ballots, there were 5 states that had the question out there whether they legalize recreational use in their respective states. And it passed in all 5 states, independent of whether it was blue or red. So it's one of the few things that unites the country, or a lot of people are in agreement with. And it's just a matter of time before it happens at the federal level as well. But until then, we're kind of painted in the same broad brush of, it's cannabis related. So therefore, when you're talking about banking relationships or payment processing relationships, it poses some challenges, but there's also legislation right now in the House that's going through the Safe Banking Act that should facilitate that. But it's imminent that it'll be legalized for a number of reasons. One, because of public sentiment, but more so because it's tax money that's being left on the table for many governments. And, I think the state of Illinois is a shining example of how much tax revenue they generated in their first year last year, which was almost the same as alcohol sales. So
Wow.
it is significant, and the places where you can procure legal cannabis is very, very limited, as we know. So there are many governments whose coffers are very dry with additional expenses for the pandemic, and it's imminent as well. So it's not they're near-term problems, and they're external to our specific business per se, but they're more across the industry. But we see them as being resolved very soon. And we're very, very well positioned to take advantage of that as well. You know, I mean, there are many e-commerce sites out there with pretty pictures, but if you don't have any buyers coming there, then it just remains a pretty website with pretty pictures. So we don't worry about that because we have that level of expertise. We actually worry about killing our engineers, you know, with the amount of traffic and volume that we're expecting when we launch.
Excellent. Well, thanks for sharing that. Jerry Wetzel, you want to talk a little bit about some challenges you guys are facing?
Sure. I mean, I think very similar to everyone else, access to the opportunities to meet potential clients, you know, in person, you know, is greatly reduced over the last year. So that's definitely been a struggle. But, you know, I actually want to respond to something that Kim raised. And, you know, maybe Walker and John also have something, you know, some thoughts on it. But, you know, what we've done, Kim, is just like really emphasize to our associates that it's okay to treat like, you know, video conferencing or phone calls to us, the partners, the same as walking down the hallway. You know, and it's been working, you know, so, you know, I don't want them to, you know, feel uncomfortable, you know, Skyping or Zooming or, you know, whatever, doing whatever. So they aren't. They've been really good about it. So, so I think that's obviously sort of a temporary solution. And so, but it is working, and I'd have those same concerns you do, Kim, about the long term. You know, it's just not, it isn't the same, but I think we've at least been able to approximate it as best as we can.
John or Walker, you want to weigh in on that?
You know, similar sentiment. You know, one of the things that's come out is there are a group of lawyers that are comfortable with doing this, and there's a group of lawyers that aren't, and it runs the gambit in terms of generation. It includes younger lawyers and older lawyers. And the other thing that also has kind of come out, at least over time, is there is some fatigue that lawyers that have, you know, active families at home, that, you know, they were doing a great job for 9-12 months, but that 24/7 on while you're at home with family, friends, kids, you know, remote learning, all that stuff, it makes an impact. And so we have a lot of lawyers that are asking to come into the office, and we're welcoming that to relieve some of that pressure that they're feeling at home. But the biggest challenge that we're probably dealing with is how do we manage with our support staff? Because there are a lot of roles that our support staff do that really need to be done in the office, and part of that's because of the antiquated Cook County judicial system and judges that still want paper copies delivered to them. Thank God we're no longer doing triplicate carbon copy orders anymore. And so one of the challenges, and this is the morale of the organization and culture, is we're asking our support staff to be there potentially more often than we might ask our lawyers, because the lawyers really can be successful away from the office. But the support staff, simply given some of the nature of their tasks, whether it's filing documents, mailing, those sorts of things, just are more challenging to do at home. And we're trying to figure out the right balance for that problem.
That's interesting.
The support staff are who are in our office the most.
Yeah. Adam, what's going on in the managed services world?
I almost feel guilty talking. I don't really think there's been outside the personal impact of COVID, but I think for the technology sector, it's been a positive boost. I think it accelerated a lot of the technologies that we've been advising for years, like what we're using today. I don't have anything to complain about. It's been probably more guiding our clients through an accelerated rate of adopting technology that's been challenging, and how to deploy platforms like Slack and Teams. It's not just the technical aspect, like, okay, we've deployed Slack and Teams on your desktop. Now people go like, well, how do I use this tool? That's coming up probably a lot more than in the past, because it's this open-ended, you can use it in a million different ways. Guiding people through that has been probably harder for us than in the past, because I have technical people that can deploy it, but this is a different resource. And how do you get people to use the technology the right way in your business?
The best practices, right?
Correct. Yep.
Adam, what about security? And now that, it used to be you got everyone under one roof and you can protect it. Now you've got, a 50-person company under 50 different roofs. Is it roofs or roofs? I think it's roofs. Roofuses? Yeah. Anyway.
Roof eye.
But is data protection and security becoming a bigger issue as people work remote?
Absolutely. And most of the people that got exposed are the ones that relied on VPNs that allowed people's home computers to connect to it, which is kind of like you spend all this time to protect your environment, and then you completely open it up by allowing somebody's home computer to connect to it. Kind of defeats the purpose a bit. Early in COVID, we were able to avoid that with our clients, but I know a lot of IT firms are struggling with convincing their clients, hey, I see these 30 people at home that you said, hey, just use your home computer. That's a problem. You just open up your whole network. And so going through that discussion has been a challenge. So we paid for technology that goes around that right at the beginning of COVID, like the March 18th or 19th. We paid for it for all our clients, said, we're not going to deal with this. We're just going to use a solution that's not VPN.
And Adam, are you seeing more security issues in the last year than prior?
The rate of attacks this year is probably double of last year. And they're targeting companies like mine now more than they did last year as well. So if you think of an IT firm, you can compromise one IT firm and get access to 100 companies. The rate of that is also doubled. Now you're saying 15 or 20 IT firms a month that are getting compromised, and each of those represents an average about 100 companies. So that's where a lot of the focus, and it's not just the low-hanging fruit type of compromises. They're really strategically thinking, how do we get into these IT firms? And they're doing a laser focus on us.
Piggybacking on that, there with all the remote learning and the home computer, employee retention of confidential information upon an exit or a transition is also a significant growing problem. And working with our clients to retain someone like Adam to put the appropriate software and protections in place so we can mitigate those risks. And really put into company-owned product rather than using a home computer, because there's been an increase in retention of data that we don't want our ex-employees to keep.
Yeah, I think those that didn't focus on security 3 years ago are really suffering now, because to get to general approach to security to follow in a framework takes probably about 3 years for an IT firm to adopt. So Kim, you probably are working with organizations that are trying to increase their security competency and security level from the day of putting the governance of information security policies together to then adhering to it. That's a long road. It's not an overnight. It takes years.
Absolutely. Well, thanks for sharing that.
Can I ask a quick question, Bill?
Yeah, go.
What about, you say home computers, but when you issue laptops that only your IT group has allowed into the VPN, I presume that mitigates that a little bit?
As long as IT is allowed full control over it and has the ability to wipe whatever's on there, absolutely, yeah.
And I want to indirectly thank Kim, because I think one of your cybersecurity partners, Stephen, can't remember his last name. I think he was in Indianapolis, but
Reynolds. Stephen.
Yeah, really a great presentation on cybersecurity to a small group that I was invited to. And while we were super focused on it, he supercharged our super focus, because he scared the politically correct stuff out of me.
Yeah, it's not a scare tactic, it's a reality, but
No.
I do have a proposal in front of someone because of another woman, Rena Bajwala, on that team who presented to a group of CFOs and in December, and then in March, he's like, I convinced the board,
No, he appropriately, scare is an inappropriate term. He appropriately articulated the risks and concerns that we might have missed. So
Yeah, no, that's
And
great.
Kim, you're seeing data breaches go up, the number in the last year?
Correct. Yes.
Substantially? Okay.
Yep. Oh, I mean, now there's, with publicly held boards, there's a requirement. I mean, with publicly held companies, there's a requirement for the board to get some certification on cybersecurity.
Yeah, I got to do a few of those. And we use for one of the boards, we use Signal for all messaging. Instead, we can't use Skype, we can't use text, we have to use Signal. So yeah.
Yeah, I mean, it's the phishing scams, the percentage of people failing those trainings that you do to your employees and all that. Adam, I love your virtual background, how it's moving like you're in there with your colleagues.
It's like an office, but it's not. Thank you.
yeah, that guy on over your left shoulder is going to suffer from repetitive motion problems.
Been doing it for 13 months, so I'm sure there's a workers' comp claim coming. And hey, Peter, I know you're focused on decentralized currency, and I'm sure you're aware that that's what really made the path for hacking explode into the industry it is today.
Yeah, you're right. Yeah, that's true. You're correct.
But what about Matt James at Hickory Farms? What sort of challenges is your industry facing, or your company?
Yeah, I mean, I think we have a lot of similarities with the work from home, the data security, what does hybrid look like? That's kind of the question we're thinking about right now on that topic, which is, I think, echoing some of the earlier sentiment. We've been really successful at getting the work done remotely, like surprisingly successful. Clearly missing the mentorship, coaching, learning and development. I think one of the challenges we have there is that spontaneity. So I think like people are available and want to connect on beyond just the transactional tasks, but then it becomes, oh, now we have to schedule something and let's schedule a Zoom, and that's 20 minutes and it's a week before we can get on the calendar. That can be hard. But one of the things I'm trying to work on right now is how do we bridge the gap to where we've got folks back in the office partially, right? So if half the teams are in the office on a given day, or, it's great when we can have 20 people on a Zoom and you can see everybody, but when 10 people are sitting in the conference room together and there's 2 people on a Zoom somewhere else, how do you still keep that kind of engagement at the same level? So from a working perspective, I think those are some of our challenges. And then just, curiously, I think similar to very different side of the industry, but also regulated, as Yakim's talking about some of the regulatory changes. We sell wine gift baskets. We have a winery license in our operations in California, and alcohol in the U.S. is still phenomenally regulated. I mean, cannabis may outpace the liberties over alcohol here in the U.S. with our puritanical post-prohibition backgrounds, but we're still trying to figure out how do we work some angles around having better ability to distribute that product out of some of our facilities in Illinois versus just shipping everything from California, because it's really expensive to ship wine.
That's interesting, Matt. Thanks for sharing that.
I read an article, I think it was last week, and I can share it with Bill to distribute. It was the CEO of Uber who said that they're getting ready to deliver cannabis once it becomes legal at the federal level. So, which he estimated to be the next 3 to 5 years. I don't know if there's similar opportunities there as well for alcohol, but I found that to be an interesting statement that he made last week.
Yeah, alcohol, it's more that it's all the state regulations you got to get around. Illinois is horrible at that because there's a long story. I mean, you can go look it up about why Illinois is controlled by 2 alcohol distribution companies. I mean, it's pretty corrupt actually, but there's reasons. Every state has their reasons.
They all have their own, yeah.
So, yeah.
Yeah, I think there's a lot of companies doing that, almost not really complying with the law and just kind of waiting for something to happen. And there's a lot of startups that are in that space of doing alcohol delivery where it's sort of legal.
Yeah.
But it's hard to think about how you scale those things with the different state regulations that are taking place in every state.
Yeah, like Matt, so like I have a couple friends who have huge wine collections, and they're Chicago based, but they store all the wine collections in Wisconsin and warehouses up there. not realize every time they drive across state lines to bring their some of their wine back, they're breaking the law. But they do it just for delivery because they can accept delivery up there from California and things like that. Where in Illinois you can't directly. So it's just kind of interesting the way all that works. But eventually, it only get better, not worse over time.
Jeff Feld, what challenges you facing in your business, in your industry?
Thanks for asking. So many things crossed my mind while listening to this group. Mine are, I'm going to start with what's been more topical in the work from home, with multiple offices, and we've got about 10% of our workforce that doesn't live in the state, so they've been full-time remote. We were well prepared for what the pandemic forced upon us, and I love the ability to work from home, but I'm starting to see some fissures in the culture, and we're struggling. At the beginning, like everybody, we did Zoom happy hours. We did a Pinot and paint thing where we had a hilarious guy who I painted this ugly elephant that everyone laughs at. But we've kind of lost that, and I don't know what the next step is, but I don't think this is new. I think this was just an acceleration of a trend that was already there. But now we have to manage the speed. So I'm trying to read the tea leaves, talk to some of our leaders, and see what we're going to do. I think it's going to be tough to force people back into the office 5 days a week. So I'll just add that. The challenge that I've fought my entire career from a 2-person startup to the size that we are now is, I'm going to say something that sounds kind of obnoxious. We're really, really good at what we do, and we're a lot better than the companies that we compete with, who we've all heard of, like Principal and Fidelity and Empower and Voya, who spend money on advertising and have very talented sales teams. 90% of our business is, when I say we fix broken retirement plans, is business that people hired a good sales team and fired a bad service team, and then they hire us. I have failed consistently for my entire career to be able to articulate that up front. Now, obviously, we've grown. We've been able to win that argument on occasion, but it frustrates the heck out of me when I feel that there's zero doubt in my mind what we're delivering is of higher quality and of lower cost than, but the joke in our industry is you can't get fired for hiring Fidelity. So anyway, that's been a constant frustration of mine. I've never been successful at articulating it well enough to get the argument won as much as I'd like, but obviously we've been successful. The last thing I'll throw out, because it continues to come up, is I kind of said yes to something about 4 years ago that I was asked if we can do, that at the time we really couldn't do. And it was a gentleman from a big advisory firm asking me if we can set up a retirement plan for a cannabis company. A big Chicago-based cannabis company, which still hasn't set up a 401k plan, was looking to do so. And I said, sure, we can. And then I found out we couldn't. What transpired after that was me scrambling to make it so we can. And about 2.5 years ago, we were maybe the first, if not one of the first companies that can set up a retirement plan for a cannabis company legally. And we've found a way to custody the assets, not with Schwab, but with a different custodian. And we've got a small group of fairly decent-sized cannabis companies that have engaged us to set up retirement plans. I believe that we have a small window where we have this advantage to be able to do so, and then I think it's going to be federally legal, and anyone will be able to do so. So the challenge for me is, do I want to market this, which we don't do, it's been all word of mouth, or do I just sit and wait and let this small window provide us some benefit and then fold it back into regular business? So those are the three things that are on my little mind.
Excellent.
I think Maury wants to chime in.
Oh, sorry.
Yeah, I just wanted to say, Jeff, that one of the things that we've been fighting, and I think you might find an excellent opportunity, because I think we all have challenged the fact that doing Zooms do not build trust. And that's the single most important thing for most of us as we're developing business. And one of the things that I found is so important to build that trust is to let other people do it for you. So when you have good testimonials and you have happy clients, perhaps one of the things that you should think about is how do you use others to present what seems to be a complicated process for you to do. It does two things. It gets the idea out and it lets people see that you've been successful by letting them see that your clients making that very apparent to them.
Fair point. We recently did a Net Promoter Score survey of all of our clients, and we scored extraordinarily high. And I culled the comments and put them into a spreadsheet, and they're sitting there, the positive comments, and maybe perhaps getting permission to use them and putting them out on a website or on some support material would be one small way to engage or what you're saying, Maury. So that's a great idea.
Love it. Yeah, thanks for sharing, Maury. And Jeff, I appreciate you bringing that up. Let's, in the interest of time, I do want to keep going. John Lovey.
Thanks, I appreciate it, Bill, because I actually do have to jump off at 12:50, so I'm not intending to be rude or disrespectful, but I do appreciate the opportunity to address everybody, because I've been really struck by how the things I think about and worry about are exactly what everybody else seems to be thinking and worry about. I mean, it's really quite an overlap, whether it's retaining people in the technology side or hiring people on our cannabis company. We have 200 employees, and we're going to have to probably triple that by the end of the year. And it's very hard to find talented people. I think it was who was speaking to that, but same problem, particularly in cannabis, where people don't have long resumes of going back in legal cannabis because it hasn't been there that long. And frankly, the people who do have long cannabis resumes are not the kind of people you maybe necessarily want running your company anyways. And the other thing that I really deal with is the work from home. And I thought, Kim described real well how are we going to train people if you can't stop into each other's offices? But to me, the big problem is culture, because how am I going to expect young attorneys that join our firm to feel allegiance to us, to feel part of what we're doing when there's no relationship there? I mean, they're sitting there in their apartment doing what they do. It feels very much more transactional, and they're just, working for a paycheck. So we haven't had the opportunity to build a team. And, as with so much of these things with technology and everything, the new generation doesn't understand what the old generation was. Sometimes I wonder, are these guys going to know what it's like to go to a meeting? Or is that going to feel like an imposition to them, that they have to show up and look at you and stuff? So I don't know if they're even, if the world's changing so much that's going to change. But these are the things I worry about and think about.
Thanks for sharing, John. I appreciate you taking the time to be here. How about Joe Coletta? What challenges are you facing in your industry, my friend?
Yeah, thanks. I mentioned some of it when Peter asked an earlier question, but we were really slow last year as a recruiting agency. There wasn't a lot of hiring going on, and then in first quarter things just boomed, really better than pre-pandemic levels. Where people just want to hire, and it's been a race. So unfortunately, we've just lost so many candidates in the first quarter because things are moving fast. They're getting multiple offers. We're trying to train our clients to move faster. So that's really been the challenge right now, just figuring out how to work with people that understand that believe we're a trusted advisor. We're telling them these guys do have multiple offers and they're moving quickly, and if they're not going to take that feedback, they're probably not a great client for us. So just working through that.
Excellent. Cyrus, what sort of challenges are you seeing in your industry and in your business?
Yeah, so a lot of what other people said, due to COVID, we've had a lot of challenges with staffing and so forth. But, if architects are sort of the predictors of a future economy, because businesses and families usually aren't planning to build unless they're confident about the future. And we're busier than ever, pre-pandemic and during the pandemic, we're much busier this quarter than we ever have been. And I think other architects are as well. So that's a good sign for everybody. And just as an indicator of that, we put out an ad for a new hire in November, and I got about 50 or 60 responses. I put out almost the same ad in February, and I probably got about 8 to 10 responses. So that tells me that other architects are busy as well in hiring. And I found that a lot of my talent are realizing that, well, if I'm remotely working, well, then I can work for anybody. And we lost a very young, bright guy to a firm out in the suburbs because, you know, he's working from home. So he didn't care if, you know, if he was working for a firm in the suburbs. Whereas usually he would only look at firms in the city because he wants to live in the city. And then we had another person move back to New York. Another guy's moving out to California, and another one mentioned to me today that they were looking at houses in Milwaukee. So I think the remote working is sort of, you know, letting people sort of relocate, which makes it challenging to me because we have site visits, and eventually I would like to get people back into the office. But one of my biggest challenges is really the competitive marketplace that architecture is. And like Jeff said, articulating the value that we bring to a project. And it just seems that and I was that younger architect one time with a much smaller firm, and I could undercut other firms that are bigger. These days, I'm the firm that's getting undercut by other smaller firms. And articulating that value that we bring to a project is sometimes challenging when, you know, a client's looking for a permit. Well, they can get me a permit. It's hard to articulate that, hey, we can do that faster with our connections to the building department and with our experience. And a lot of people don't really realize the value of that experience that we have.
Love it. Thanks for sharing, Cyrus. Jonathan, you're on mute, my friend.
Sorry, a lot of overlap here. I'm by no means a tech expert, but in my opinion, I think the banking industry's challenge, I believe, is cybercrime, stopping the fraudsters from stealing money, intercepting wires, stopping hackers from compromising our financial systems, and matters like ransom. I believe I read an article that about 25% of cyber attacks are ransomware related. I think solutions include, as was talked about earlier, education, informing people, the public, of what to look out for and what to avoid doing their part to prevent occurrences such as phishing and malware. Another solution is vigorously working to stay ahead of the perpetrators, I think. This requires reliance on tech experts, of which we have some in attendance today, and the building and maintaining of computer system firewalls to prevent intrusions by the bad guys and girls out there doing all this, as well as figuring out ways to outsmart these fraudsters and hackers. You know, with more reliance on technology, it's just getting increasingly more challenging. So we all have to be vigilant and, you know, do our part. And yeah, it's going to be around. But I'm a still believer you got to make money the old-fashioned way, and there's always been people out there trying to do it the wrong way. So got to stick together and, like I said, continue to be vigilant.
100%. So thanks for sharing that, Jonathan. Maury.
Yeah. Well, as most of you know, my biggest challenge is really making presidents and owners of companies understand the value of their human resources, and how by paying it forward when you meet somebody you want to do business with, by offering them introductions that are important to them, it indicates that you are wanting to be a partner rather than a salesperson. When you can start understanding the people that you're dealing with in terms of the human assets you have, those people you met. You know, I constantly hear people talk about their network. I never hear them talk about how they use their network. And the value of being able to get into the office of the president, owner, or decision maker in a company that you want to deal with may take strength in the value of the people you already know. You are able to make those introductions. It puts you at the level of the decision maker. And sometimes I find it's very difficult to get people to understand what it is to get a call in the morning from somebody you know who says, I've got 3 introductions I want to make to you. You've made a friend forever, and you've probably made a partnership that allows that person to try to make those efforts to introduce you to people. So my comment is kind of personal to those people who need to build their business. And that is, take a look at the people that you know, cross the line from who would like to meet each other in those people, make those introductions, watch your business soar.
Well put, Maury. And, you know, I know Jed and I haven't had a chance to go yet, but I apologize to you, my friend. I want to, this last 5 minutes, I want to take, you know, just to kind of wrap up and talk about our next steps here. The goal of this meeting, as I mentioned at the beginning, was for leaders in our community to have an opportunity to connect, share ideas, and support one another. And so this hour and a half will be useless to all of us unless there's follow-up, unless we reach out to connect and see how we can support each other going forward. One of the suggestions that we had in a recent group meeting, the seated members of this group got together and talked about how one thing we'd like to see going forward is 2 of the guests partnering with one of the seated members within the week of this meeting to have a quick call to talk about what will the topic, you know, of the question that we discussed, what will that be for next month's meeting? And so what I'd like to do is get 2 volunteers from the guests to participate with 1 volunteer of a seated member, just to circle back within the next week to brainstorm a topic that we can talk about at next month's meeting. Do any of the, so Yakeem and Cyrus, there's 2, and Adam as a seated member. So that's it right there. Yakeem, Cyrus, and I'll put you guys together. You guys, hopefully within this coming week, can schedule a call or Zoom. We know Adam's got a nice Zoom account working very well. So you guys can connect and just maybe come up with what next month's topic should be. Those 2 guests will be invited to attend our next month's meeting as well. We are hoping to meet in person, an outdoor lunch next month. I'll connect again with the seated members about that. You know, we do have a couple more minutes. That went a little quicker than I had anticipated. So Jed, if you want to chat for a second about kind of the challenges your industry is facing, we'd welcome hearing from you.
I'll make it short. I know we only got a few minutes here. I'll just start with 1 word and end with 1 word: certainty. Something we're all sharing, an ability to understand what's going to happen next. Certainty. That's it. I could go on and on with this, but we have 3 minutes, so I'll stop there.
I appreciate that. I appreciate your brevity. But no, I mean, this was a great gathering. I mean, I know it's tough over Zoom. We're all suffering a little Zoom fatigue, but you know, the room that we put together here was spectacular. Terrific leaders and high-level executives and top service providers and amazing connectors. This is the type of powerful room that can make a difference. And like I said, the only way that we are going to make a difference is if we connect with each other following this meeting. And Maury taught me, you know, the question to ask is, what can I do to support the growth of your business? How can I help you? And I think when we sincerely ask that to each other, that's when growth happens. That's when we continue to evolve and learn, and most importantly, we get in front of new opportunities. And I know for all of us, that's a big part of what we do in our daily lives, is trying to find new opportunities and to grow our businesses. So with that, you know, we can wrap things up. I really appreciate everybody joining, and thank you all for coming.
Thank you. Thanks for setting this up and hosting this.
Take care, everybody.
Thanks, Bill.
Thank you,
Appreciate
Adam.
it.
Thanks,
Take
Bill.
care, guys.